Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I've been compiling a list of the most useless perks in Texas Chain Saw Massacre because there's quite a bit of them, and I think a lot of people have been pointing them out, and I think the devs are going to rework some of them because some are like actually very, very useless. But yeah, there's a lot of S tier perks in this game that probably need to be worked down a bit, and then a lot of F tier ones that just need to be met in the middle. Anyways, we're going to start here with an honorable mention, just with a grandpa perk here. This doesn't really fit the video, but I just want to put it out there, and I've said it before, well, and Winddoom need to be combined into one perk. You gotta work so hard to feed Grandpa to get both these, and with Winddoom only being equipable on one map, it's still very strange. If they were both one perk, you'd be able to run that on every map. And it makes sense too because victims have a perk that works with windows and wells at the same time in one perk slot. So why does family have to work harder to be able to counter that with two perk slots? And they're not even regular perks, they're just grandpa perks. So I feel like it would make sense if Winddoom and well were combined together. But that's just an honorable mention. Let's get into the actual useless perks of this game. Okay, so rubber boots is a good idea for a perk. I actually really like it. I've never used it because it's very useless right now. The problem with the perk isn't the perk itself, it's the mechanic in the game. So on most maps, the second you go an inch or maybe a foot past the cattle grid, you're just out. You're out of bounds, you've escaped. So this perk doesn't really make much sense to run. Like the amount of times you're going to be passing over a cattle grid to catch someone is very unlikely on most maps and in most scenarios, because once they are past the cattle grid, once they're on it, if it's already like electrified, if they're standing on the other side of it and it's already electrified, it's not going to do you any good to chase them and start hitting them again because they move 1 foot and they're already out of the map. The only parts where this is maybe useful is the gas station cattle grid, but then again, no one goes for that because they have the smoke room door that has no cattle grid on it. But that's like one of the only examples, and maybe family house, where the cattle grid is like a couple extra feet away from the actual exit zone. But in most scenarios, this isn't going to help you. The one generator pool is nice, but I kind of wish that this mechanic also allowed the family in the future to see the cooldown of the generator, so you're not just standing by it and waiting. The one pool to start the generator is kind of like the instant activation chainsaw for Leatherface. It kind of just buys you 1.5 to 2 seconds of time, because you can pull that thing really fast. And same with this chainsaw. So it like sounds good on paper, but it's not actually that good. And then the level 1 for it also debuffs you when the buff of this perk isn't even that good. So definitely get rid of the tier 1 debuff, and then just make it so that once people go past the cattle grid on every map, they have to move a couple extra feet to actually escape the match. So yeah, this one's a weird one to rework because it's a cool idea. It's just the mechanics in the game don't allow for this to be very useful, at least right now. Alright, Chicken Whisperer. This is kind of a useless one for the family as well because not a lot of people play stealthily in the first place, so setting off chickens as the family doesn't really do much. The perk as is right now just makes it so that you set off chickens a lot less as the family, which, yeah, doesn't do much. The way I'd rework this is very simple. Just make it so that when victims set off the chickens, they're highlighted without family vision mode being on, or family focus being on. So at tier 1, victims that set off chickens get highlighted for 2 seconds, at level 2, 4 seconds, at level 3, 6 seconds. Or you can even tone it down to 1 second, 2 seconds, and 3 seconds at level 3. This would probably encourage more and more people to kill the chickens on the map as well with bone scraps, which is animal abuse, I know, we don't want that, but not a lot of people do that because chickens aren't a big threat, and this perk would maybe make them a bigger threat. Alright, I have 2 reworks for confusing mechanic that I think a lot of people are going to like. First off, I think you should work on the generator and the car battery, not just the generator. Secondly, you shouldn't have to turn off the generator or car battery to be able to apply this to it. You should be able to go up to it and do a little skill action, whatever it is. Just hold the button down until the bar fills, kind of like you're doing the car battery or whatever. Or just a simple 1 tap click, that would work too. And it like sabotages the gen or car battery and it applies this perk to it. At the start of the game, having to run over the generator, turn it off, wait the whole timer out, and then turn it back on so that this is applied to the generator is very strange. And I think that's the reason nobody runs this perk. My second rework for this perk, instead of that idea that I just had, would be that they completely change the perk so that it actually makes it so once the generator is turned off or car battery, it'll automatically come back on if nobody's there to reset it. Now, not right when the cooldown is normally off, but it would come back after a second cooldown. So let's say a victim goes up to the generator disables it, and then you have that whole cooldown where no family member can turn it back on, right? And then the cooldown's done, a family member can now turn it back on, but nobody's there. So another cooldown would start, like a shorter one. It'd be based on the tiers of the perk. And once that cooldown's over, the gen would just automatically turn back on. So at tier 1, maybe you wait an extra 15 seconds, and then at tier 2, an extra 10 seconds, and then at tier 3, 5 seconds. Something like that. So it does have a downside in a way where, like, if a family member was there at the generator, they could turn it on faster. But if nobody's there and they're all in chases and stuff, it will automatically turn back on by itself. But of course, you'd also have to be able to apply that to the gen without turning it off yourself. So they should still, either way, make it so that you can go up to a gen or car battery and just apply this perk to it. Let me know what you guys think about those two reworks. Which one do you like better? Which one seems more OP or less OP? One of those can even go over to rubber boots if they want, because rubber boots is still kind of useless until they change the whole cattle grid system. All right, 2-cycle charge for Leatherface. It makes it so that you regenerate stamina faster when revving your chainsaw, which makes no sense on Leatherface because, again, I've said multiple times, he doesn't use stamina. If you're constantly running while revving, you can even keep running and revving at 0 stamina because it like drains it, but it doesn't do anything. Even when swinging your chainsaw at 0 stamina, it doesn't do anything because when swinging your chainsaw, you just use the rev meter. You don't use the swings, or you don't use the stamina or anything. So this really makes no sense on him unless he's bugged and he's meant to use stamina this entire time, like since the tech test and everything, which could be a thing. He still overheats his chainsaw during grandpa cutscenes since the tech test, so it's been months and months. Stuff like that could just be broken. But yeah, this perk makes no sense, so instead, they should make tier 1 15%, tier 2 30%, tier 3 60% faster at breaking barricades, doors, and crawl spaces. I think that would be very nice for Leatherface because he has a lot to do in the match. He's constantly in animations, breaking down barricades, doors, crawl spaces, not going after victims a lot. Because it's your job to rearrange the entire map as Leatherface. You got to get around and destroy all those things so that your other family members can actually move through places. And just to shorten the loops of the map for the victims. So doing that all like 60% faster, or it doesn't even need to be that much. Even 50% or 30% at max tier would be very nice. But as is right now with the stamina gain when revving, this perk is useless. Bloodlust, I'm gonna skip for a second and we're gonna go over to bringing home the bacon because I posted about this perk on Reddit when the game first came out and it got to like the top of the Reddit. A lot of people making fun of this perk just because it is probably the most useless perk in the game. The F-ist of F-ist tiers. Let's just read what the tier 3 does really quick. Carrying a victim highlights Leatherface to all family members for 30 seconds. It's a very strange perk because usually when you're carrying a victim, it's most likely the last person that like bled out, but it rarely happens. And the reason I'm skipping Bloodlust right now is because this perk is actually going to do with carrying people as well. But bringing home the bacon, okay, so useless right now. They had to completely rework it, but it's still going to make sense with the picture of the perk and the name and all that. So tier 1 incapacitated victims are incapacitated for 25% longer and highlighted to Leatherface for a time. Tier 3, the victims are incapacitated for 75% longer and highlighted to Leatherface for the entire duration of incapacitation. So if someone drops down a well at very low health and they're down trying to get themselves up, they're going to take 75% longer. Leatherface could be down there. He could see you highlighted and come towards you. So this perk would really help a lot with being able to carry people away to the gallows. And maybe 75% is too much. Again, the numbers can all change. But what the perk should do is that it should help you get more carries to the gallows for the special executions. It shouldn't highlight Leatherface to the other family members when you're already carrying someone. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, longer incapacitation and highlighted victims that are incapacitated as well, just so Leatherface can get those carries. Bloodlust. This one right now, after you execute someone at the gallows, you do extra damage, which again, it doesn't happen that often. So this is kind of useless right now. With the reworked Bring Home the Bacon, this could be good, but I also have another idea for the perk, so let's get into that. Basically, gallowed victims, including the starting one, because in the starting opening cutscene, you're cutting up a character at the beginning and you spawn as Leatherface right in front of them. Those victims that are on the hooks are basically super blood buckets. So right at the beginning of the game, you can fill up from that person. At tier 1, gallowed victims drop blood at 150% speed, at level 2, 200% speed, and level 3, 250% speed. So you just go up to the gallowed victims, the people that are on the hooks, and you collect blood even faster from them. All family members can do it. They can all go up to those bodies, and they're just like super blood buckets that just fill up faster. I think that'd be kind of nice. It maybe have to be higher than 250%, but again, Grandpa's a really big system in this game, hard to balance. So I kind of thought of the numbers 250 would be probably mostly balanced, especially if you have to go as a family member down to the basement to go collect from that blood bucket. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that idea as well. Again, Gallows and all those special executions don't really happen too often in matches, but maybe with Bring Home the Bacon getting buffed, to my idea, you'd be able to pull those off more, and then those victims on hooks could actually act as super blood buckets. Alright, Insulated. Again, another perk that gets made fun of a lot because of how useless it is. People with 200 hours still haven't even gotten stunned by lamps most of the time. But basically, as a victim, you can use a lockpicking tool to trap a lamp, and then once a family member goes up to the lamp and tries to turn it back on, it just shatters the light bulb and stuns them for 1 second. So very, very useless that this perk exists, because that doesn't ever happen to family members like most of the time. But yeah, level 3, the booby trapped lamps don't stun you. I don't know, it's really stupid. Anyways, this perk should allow the family members that are using it to instead be the ones that trap lamps before the survivors could get to them. So you trap a lamp, and the victim that goes up to the lamp to either booby trap it or to try and turn it off, it instead just acts as a normal lamp to them, but it highlights them to you. You walk up to the lamp as a family member, you do a little animation to booby trap it, and then once a victim goes up to that lamp to try and booby trap it or to turn off the light, it instead will highlight the victim to you for a short amount of time. Level 1 could be 6 seconds, level 2 could be 10 seconds, level 3 could be 14 seconds. Or if that seems like too OP of a perk, too OP of a mechanic, being able to highlight victims from lamps. I mean, again, the victim has to interact with the lamp and they'd be able to see themselves outlined and highlighted probably. But a different thing you could do is just make the lamp highlight through walls, like highlight yellow. So you know someone went in there and they just turned off that light. But yeah, stun resistance from lamps is a really bad idea for a perk right now. And I hope this one gets changed into something a little better in the future. Alright, Warmed Up. This is a perk that's only for the Cook and Johnny right now. Same with the next one we're going to cover, which is Rage, and these kind of go together because they're both blood harvesting perks. Warmed Up. Right now, it's after winning or losing a close encounter, you gain 40% to your ability charge, which is pretty bad because most of the time when you're in a chase or in a close encounter that happens to you, you're not going to want your abilities up. Like the Cook's hearing ability, you're usually right there on someone. Same with footprint tracking from Johnny. So it's kind of like, why bother? Do you really need that ability charge right now when someone's close encountering you? Same with the Rage perk, which is successfully hitting people fills your ability. At least that one's a little better. But even then, you're right in a chase. There's no point of getting your tracking abilities back, I feel like. And what does that really have to do with blood harvesting? I get it, like you're in encounters and you're hitting people, but still doesn't make too much sense. So instead, I'm going to make it work more with the blood vial mechanic in the game. So Warmed Up, close encounters actually raise your max blood bar by 20%, 40%, and then 60% at tier 3. So if someone gets in a close encounter with you, and then your max blood bar is raised by 60% until you feed Grandpa next time. Once you feed Grandpa, it goes back down to your normal amount based on your blood harvesting attributes. So right now, for the Cook, for example, I have 25, which means I have 100 in my max blood vial. If I got into a close encounter with this at tier 3, since it would raise it by 60%, I'd have 160 in my blood bar. But I wouldn't have that much blood actually in it, just the max is raised until I feed Grandpa next time. So I can go and collect even more blood, then feed Grandpa, and then it goes back down to 100. I think that would be really nice. So yeah, I'd kind of be like an extra blood banker here, which this one just like increases your max blood capacity in general, but only by 30%. This one rewards it mid-match after winning or losing a close encounter, and then it goes away temporarily, so it's only useful if the victim's activated on you, basically. It's kind of a risk-reward type of thing, and sometimes it might not even come to play in matches, but if you play aggressive enough to where people are using bone shards on you, could be able to feed Grandpa even more. And then for Rage here, hitting a victim while at max blood transfers a portion of the hit's blood gain to Grandpa instantly. So again, you have to be at max blood and chasing people and hitting them. Once you hit them, instead of getting like your normal, like however much it is, it's based on your blood harvesting. Let's say you got 30 blood from hitting someone, which I don't think you ever do. You get like 10 usually or less. But 15% of that 30 that you got from hitting that person is instead transferred instantly to Grandpa because you wouldn't have gotten it anyways. You're at max blood capacity. So it's a rewarding perk that I really want in the game, something like this. For the times that you fill up on blood, but you can't go and feed Grandpa because he's either on cooldown or there's just a victim in your face and you don't want to go waste your time running to grandpa and feeding him. But it's not too rewarding where like 100% of that blood is going to grandpa instantly. It's a very small percentage. It'd be like 15%, 30%, and 45% or something. Not even half of the blood that you're gaining. So it'd be a little trickles, little drops of blood for grandpa when you're at max and in chases with people, but it would be rewarding for aggressive playstyles. Also for all the times that you just entered an animation and fully killed someone and got all that blood to get to max, but grandpa's across the entire map and there's another victim right in your face already, going after them could still be rewarding towards grandpa's progress. And it makes sense with the perk name, Rage. So anyways, these perks would both be reworked from filling your ability bars because it's kind of useless to instead helping out grandpa and being a blood harvesting perk as it is. Alright, I Smell Blood, a very weird perk right now that I don't think anyone uses, but it raises your proximity range by 3 times to help you stay focused on the last victim. So when there's one person left, you're basically your terror radius. If you've played Victim, when the family member is near you, you get like a yellow, you probably know, it's like a giant yellow smoke cloud around your screen. This will raise it for the family member by 3 times. So it's a terror radius from DBD basically, but only when there's one victim left. And also, why would you want this? Because it just makes you less stealthy. It basically makes the victim know that you're coming, which I guess could be kind of intimidating a little bit. Maybe they're trying to lockpick, but they see their screen glowing yellow, they start running because they think you're nearby, but really you're kind of far away still. I just still don't think it's that good of a perk. I think it's probably one of the worst, unless proximity range also does some other hidden mechanics. I'm pretty sure some people have said if grandpa screams when there's one person left, or when he's in tier 4 or something like that, if he screams and someone's in your proximity radius as a family member, your screen will also glow yellow, so you can like see that someone's there even if they're hidden and not being detected by grandpa. So maybe this will help you find them, but it's still such a big radius that like, is it actually gonna help at all? So I've reworked this to make it so that in general, if you want your proximity radius to be bigger and more intimidating, this perk will just raise it by 50% throughout the entire match, not just when there's one person left. And that goes for all tiers. The thing with the tier system though, if the final victim is in your terror radius or proximity range or whatever, their heart is beating faster. And you know every last victim has a 5-minute timer. Their gray heart on the bottom of the screen is beating pretty fast and they're slowly bleeding out. This would make them bleed out faster if they're within your proximity radius. So tier 1, 8%, tier 2, 12%, and tier 3, 16% quicker bleed out. Again, they have to be in your radius, which would still be pretty small because it's only 50% bigger than normal. It would actually make more sense that way because it's like you're nearby, their heart is beating at the bottom of the screen very quickly, and it just speeds up the bleed out timer by a little bit. Even at tier 3, it would only be 16% faster, and it would only work on the final victim. Maybe that's even a worse perk than how it currently is. Maybe the overall radius needs to go up by 50% for every victim that is killed. That could be a thing too. But yeah, right now, as far as like proximity range goes, until the devs fully explain what it does, this seems like a useless perk. There's also a victim perk on their side, if I ever do a victim video like this, that reduces all family members' proximity ranges for some reason, turning all of the family members into stealth killers. So I think there's a lot of confusion going on right now about what the proximity range really does. So until the devs actually explain some of these mechanics, a lot of these perks are going to seem useless, and they probably still are useless, honestly. Turning all the family members into stealth killers seems very strange for a victim perk. All right, and lastly, we got Johnny's unique perk, his only unique perk, Patience. So standing still will reduce your ability consumption rate by 40%, which is very, very strange. If this perk increased your recharge rate of your ability by 40% while standing still, maybe that would be a little bit better. But even then, you really never want to be caught standing still in this game. This isn't really a game. This is like a stressful game, honestly, more stressful than DBD. It's like everyone is trying their hardest on the victim side, and anything can happen, and every single second matters in the game. So it's very stressful. You never really want to stand still as a killer in this game, or else you're doing nothing. You're not guarding your objectives most of the time, unless you're like Cook, standing still camping an objective. But this is a Johnny exclusive perk. You don't really stand still as Johnny. You're tracking people, you're hunting them down, or you're swinging very quickly and running across the map. But even then, in that hypothetical situation where it's an ability recharge rate, which it's not, it's an ability consumption rate. So you're already using your ability, you're tracking someone, following footprints. You could just activate your ability and then you're just like looking for footprints. You could still stand still, but what's the point? Such a weird design. Like, you're trying to track people down and follow their footprints. Why would you stand still to reduce the rate by 40% just for the time that you're standing still, and once you move again, it's just normal? Like, it makes zero sense. So I have reworked it here for you today. So once you start tracking someone, this perk activates for 30 seconds. If you hit the person within 30 seconds of tracking them, you regain 25, 50, or 75% of your perk back, or your ability back. So kind of makes sense, or maybe it's a little bit of the opposite of patience, because you only have 30 seconds to, you're kind of speed running towards the victim. Maybe it can work in a way where if you take too long to find someone, if you're patient enough, you get your recharge rate back. But yeah, basically you just start tracking someone's footprints. You get a 30-second clock. If you can catch up to them and actually hit them within that time frame, you'll gain a lot of your ability back. They can even make it 50% at tier 1, 75% at tier 2, and 100%. You could just get your ability back if you can complete that task, hitting them within 30 seconds. That would make the perk a lot better. Still not the greatest thing in the world, but at least much better than how it is now, which is completely useless. So I think that is it. Let me know if I missed anything down below in the comments, but that is my whole list of useless to like just super underpowered perks in the game right now. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you want me to make a victim video as well, although victims have a lot of very strong perks and only a few underpowered ones, and a lot of perks that just kind of do the same things together. So that one would be a much shorter video. It seems like as far as family goes right now, they got a lot of perks that don't make too much sense. But I did mention that one victim one earlier. There's probably a few I can do on the victim side as well, and I've thought about already. But as far as this video goes, it's just for the family. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What perks do you think are useless? What perks do you think are too OP? And what ideas do you have to balance those out? Anyways, that's been it for the video today. I'll see you guys in the next Texas Chainsaw video very, very soon.